Hello, everyone, everywhere. This is Bob Thibodeau with the Kingdom Crossroads podcast, and you are listening to the Going North podcast with my good friend Don Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his podcast so you will not miss any of the upcoming episodes, and be blessed in all that you do.
And today on the Going North podcast, we're back at you again with another wonderful, legendary author. And let me tell you a bit about this author today. I'm really honored to have this guest because he is a fellow John Maxwell Certified Team Coach, and he also is a leadership expert as well as a wonderful minister of the gospel. He is a author, he's a teacher and a ministry leader, and is the author of multiple books, and he's won over 17 literary awards. 17. And not only that, for 25 years, he has performed successfully in numerous middle and senior level positions in the areas of workforce development, training, organizational change, acquisition and procurement, customer service, and program management. So this guy right here is one heck of a powerhouse. And he's right here in the Maryland area for our Maryland listeners. So it's probably have been living under a rock, you probably know who this wonderful guest is. It's the one, the only, Kevin Wayne Johnson. How are you today, sir?
I am doing well. I'm doing well, Dom. Thank you so much for the invitation. Glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. Hey, glad to have you on. Met you, I think it was the Black Speakers Network, the first ever networking event they had a couple of years ago.
Yep. Both of us were there, and we've been in contact, I believe, through a few other venues as well, since both of us are Marylanders. So we're close to each other, and we're doing some of the same great work.
Yes, and I have to say, out of all the banners I've seen authors have, yours is my personal favorite because it just personifies power. Because it's just you with the glasses, with the smile, and then you got all the books lined around you, behind you like a halo. I'm like, man, when I grow up, I want to have a banner just like that because that is too awesome.
You know, it takes 25 years to become an overnight success.
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess the 10-year folks are lying.
Yes, sir.
Well, doing something a little different for this episode since we have a leadership expert on the show, and it's all about leadership development. And you are one heck of a well of wisdom for this subject.
Well, I thank you for that. I bring a total of 34 years of experience, having recently retired from the federal government. And out of those 34 years, 20 were spent at the mid-level and senior levels, having an opportunity to learn and grow and develop myself. And then once I reached the senior levels, I spent the majority of my time giving back and helping the next generation to develop what I had learned from the sponsors and champions that I had in my life. And I believe that's what it's all about. My way of thanking all of my mentors and coaches over the years is to now do the same for others. That's my passion. That's my goal. That's my dream. And I get a chance to live it out. So it's great to sort of be in your sweet spot, and that's where I am. And that's part of the John Maxwell interest and partnership and being a certified team member with the great work they're doing around the world, and working with a number of folks across the federal government, corporations, nonprofit organizations, and churches as well, doing a lot of leadership development training and also coaching since I'm certified in that area, and really just trying to make the world a much better place by teaching people some basic strategies and principles on leadership, because that's really a void that I see that's missing in our country right now, not just because of who's in the White House, but it's something that I've seen that's been missing in the workplace for quite a number of years. I've had some really, really good leaders that I've had a chance to work with and work for, but I've actually had more what I called ineffective and bad leaders that I worked with and worked for. So the number of good ones would pale in comparison to the number of bad ones, and I'll go into some more details a little bit later.
That is awesome indeed. That is awesome indeed. The good thing about the bad leaders is they get to show you what not to be.
Yep. But without them even realizing it, they're teaching us. They're teaching us what not to do. Exactly. You hit it right on the head.
Oh yeah. So for those who are maybe starting out on their leadership journey, what do you think? What 3 qualities you think someone should strive to have, or at least try to possess already, if they intend to be a leader in any field of their choice?
Yeah. And these are not in any particular order, Dom, but these are the 3 that I definitely have in mind, and these are the 3 that I teach. Number 1 is integrity. You and I have to be persons of integrity. In other words, the easiest way to translate it is we have to walk the talk. So my word has to be my bond, and I'm not saying that a leader is perfect, but I am saying that a leader does have to be a person of integrity, someone that you can trust, somebody that you can respect. It's earned over time, but if I can consistently show you as a leader that I will do what I say and say what I do, that shows that I have integrity, and more times than not, the followers would be willing to follow as a leader. The second one is character, being a person of character. In other words, I don't pretend to be someone publicly that I'm not. The same person that I am privately is the same person that I am publicly. It's the core of who I am, and that's my character. Being a person of character means a lot, and it goes a lot. People can usually see through you if you're phony or hypocritical, but if you're genuine and the real you comes forth, you're showing people that you have great character. And then the third quality, that, again, these aren't in any particular order. They're all equally important. But the third quality that a person has to have, I believe, to be a good leader is to learn how to be a good communicator. And communication not only goes outward in terms of what we say and how we say it and the body language that we use to project it, but it also has to do with our ability to listen, being really, really good listeners, actually showing and demonstrating through our mannerism and our character and through our behaviors that we're hearing what people are saying, and that way we're connecting to them. So, I mean, just like you and I are having a conversation as a part of this interview, it's very important that I listen to what you're asking me, listen to what you're saying, and then my feedback gives you the affirmation that, yes, I am listening, which means that I actually value and care about what you're saying. I don't change the subject. I listen very intently. I answer exactly what you're asking. So those 3, integrity, character, and communication, are 3 qualities that every leader should have.
Nice indeed. The ICC. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, man, and 3 very important ones to us. And you're right. I mean, it would be hard to try to put one of those as the number 1. I mean, because those are all integral. Because, I mean, you got to communicate effectively, and you got to walk the talk as well, and of course you got to listen to and be able to communicate effectively. That's really true. Really true. It's something we all should have.
Absolutely.
So for those who may have trouble being a good listener, any words of advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I definitely recommend leaders are always in a position where we're learning because we never really quite arrive. And so as a part of our learning and our growth and development is to take the time to enroll in some of the course offerings that are out there about how to be a more effective communicator. You could take one of the courses on listening skills, because there is an art to being able to connect with people as a part of our conversation and our communication package. Because there's that old saying, Dom, that we won't always remember what people say, but we always remember how they made us feel. And so, interestingly enough, the words that we say only make up a small percentage of how we communicate. As a matter of fact, the data shows only about 7% of what we say is part of it goes hand in hand with what we're communicating and how we're connecting with people. It's the body language and the tone of voice that resonates most with people. And so I would recommend that as a leader, we get ourselves in an environment where we can learn more. We can be coached. We can become a mentee of someone who has more expertise in that area that can teach us, and just always be in a position where we're interested in learning more about how to connect with people. And that will help take us a good little way. That's what I had to do. I mean, I've been at this for a long time, but there's still some areas in my life as a leader where I still need to get better in that area of communication and learning that people learn different ways. There's a lot of different ways that people learn. There's no one monolithic way that people learn. And so it's important to be able to connect with a large audience of people. And as leaders, we often find ourselves within that sphere of influence. And so those are a couple of ways that we can get better. And once we do that, we'll start to learn more about what we don't know, so we can make additional improvements even as we grow and develop, and then go out and teach others to grow and develop as well. So those are just a couple of recommendations.
And some awesome ones too. And I'm glad you mentioned the classic statistic about the body language meaning more than whatever words you say, because, I mean, if once you get used to reading body language, you kind of learn that sometimes words always don't match the facial expression.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I also love the fact that you mentioned that it's really no one really learns the same way. Monolithic learning. That is a great combination right there. I never heard that one before.
Yeah, because, I mean, in any given audience that we may be speaking at, or any number of people that are looking to us as their leader, again, we have people with different personalities, different education levels, different interests. People communicate differently. There is no one way to get your message through to a large group, other than recognizing that it's a diverse audience, and you need to use a variety of different ways to connect with people. So, you're a speaker, you're a public speaker, that there's a combination of storytelling, there's a combination of pauses, there's different body movements that we use. We walk back and forth on the stage so that we can reach the folks in the middle, we can reach the folks on the left, the folks on the right. We use different facial expressions. There's all different types of ways to keep the audience engaged, because you're connecting with different people through different means. And it's no different than for those of us as leaders. We lead introverts, we lead extroverts, we lead thinkers, we lead people that like to work in groups, people that like to work independently. So you can't use just one method to effectively get people motivated and use your influence to get them to move out on that project or that task. It's multidimensional, and that's part of what we do as leaders is having the patience and the insight to understand the folks that we are leading so that we can effectively lead them all together as a team. Ideally, we want them to all march to the same marching orders and as one as best we can, but the way that we accomplish that is recognizing all the differences that they have, and so that's where the term monolithic comes, because no group, the group of people consists of individuals, and they don't all think alike. They don't process information the same. They don't communicate the same way. They don't hear your message the exact same way. Some people are visual. Some people are audio. So we have to be very intentional in terms of how we reach them and get them to move out on the marching orders.
Very true in that regard, and that kind of speaks to a lot of things happening in today's society where there are a lot of millennials that may be getting into their first job. Some of them may be in management or maybe overseeing a team, and they may have folks on their team who may be baby boomers or Gen Xers or 10, 20, and even 30, maybe even older on their team, and it can be difficult for them to get started. So any advice for those, especially like millennials or even Gen Z, like in the early 20s, that may be starting on their leadership journey?
Yeah, I mean, with this younger generation that comes up, I mean, we have to recognize and acknowledge that technology plays a very, very important part in their lives. So I think one of the most important things that we can do as a leader for that generation is to engage them and to include them and ask them what they think. What's most effective in your opinion to reach your generation? Give me some ideas and give me some thoughts. And by the way, come alongside me to help me to implement and execute. As a leader, don't make an assumption that we know what's needed for that generation. Let's bring them in, add them to the team, ask them for their feedback and input, and actually use it for the execution and implementation on the way forward. I think that's the best thing that we could do. That's how the 44th president got elected, when we thought that the Clinton machine was unbeatable. He was smart enough to galvanize a team of individuals around the best way to reach the younger generation by using technology, because they know it best. So bring them on board as experts and treat them like the experts that they are in terms of how to reach that generation and some of the strategies and principles that would work best, and actually have them to be an integral part of the team to make it happen. I think that's the best thing that we would do. Now, your question specifically is, how about when they're starting on their leadership journey? And on their leadership journey, I would flip it. The advice that I just gave, I would flip it to say, as a millennial moving into leadership, recognize and acknowledge your audience. You're going to have some people in your audience who are more seasoned than you are. You're going to be leading people in their 40s and 50s. And as the millennial leader moving into your maybe first position in that area, make sure that you engage folks in the different age groups about what works, what doesn't work, get their advice, lock arms with them on your team before you decide to go out with your goals and objectives, so that together as a team, everyone can implement and execute together. And don't make the assumption that you understand that older generation that you're going to be leading. So it works both ways. I think what happens too much, Dom, is that when we move into a leadership position, we think we have all the answers, and we don't spend enough time engaging those around us and asking questions, getting their input and their feedback, soliciting their thoughts. We don't do enough of that, and then we try to move out on a plan of action without including all the folks that will be impacted, and it's just not as effective as it would be if we were more inclusive. That's exactly why, as we have this particular interview, the hottest topic right now in the workplace and the hottest topic that leaders have to deal with is around the whole subject of diversity and inclusion. It is the hottest topic right now in the workplace. Federal government, corporations, nonprofits. I just finished a full week of training last week, a full week. Tuesday, I was with a major nonprofit in Washington, D.C., doing the diversity, equality, and inclusion training for them. The largest foundation, nonprofit foundation in the country, downtown D.C. On Wednesday, I was with a group of mid-level leaders in the federal government at one of the larger federal government agencies. They had my class size caps at 30, but we had 34 people that signed up, and we had another 10 on the wait list. Wow. For the influence. I teach a lot about becoming a person of influence. That's one of Maxwell's core curriculum classes. It's one of the more popular ones that I teach, because we spend a full 8-hour day just talking about being a person of influence. And these are new managers and supervisors and leaders, and they're also a group of experienced leadership folks that need a refresher and need some new ideas about how to influence their direct reports and others as well. And then I was also at one of our area's largest churches, one of our mega churches over in Randallstown, Maryland. They have 6,000 members, and the pastor and first lady called me in to do a full day of training with their 100 ministry leaders. We spent the full day talking about communication, influence, and I walked them also through the Bible, through 3 John and also 2 Timothy, to help those leaders to recognize and acknowledge their awesome responsibility that we have. And the hot topic, I'm telling you, the hot topic for the church, for the nonprofit, and for the federal government and corporations is around this whole theme of diversity and inclusion. How do we get there? How do we achieve it? How do we keep it going? How do we attract good folks? How do we retain them once we get them? So that's the hot topic. And so for the millennials to be successful moving into their leadership journey, they have to recognize and acknowledge that there's a workforce that's there. Include them, bring them on to the team, solicit feedback and input, and make sure that everyone's included as they go forward, because you're going to have better success when it's time to execute and implement.
Solid advice right there. And you're definitely right. You're definitely right, especially nowadays where there's so many different tribes in a way and different groups, and it's not just really black and white anymore. It's all of these other different groups like the LGBTQI groups and all these other groups, and there's just so many nuances that are just basically changing every day and keep getting added to the vernacular, and even some involving like pronouns. It's like it's no longer he or she. It's like there's another one with the they, them, or theirs with some folks, and they prefer to be referred to as them, and that's so confusing nowadays, especially for those who've been trained in a particular he or she fashion. So you are definitely right. That is a huge thing nowadays, diversity and inclusion, and it's kind of got to tread softly in a way with that nowadays too, because it's a tough road with that one.
Yeah, but I tell Dom all the time, stay true to what you believe in. Don't stray away from what you believe in your core. And what I firmly believe is that when folks are valued, and when you truly show that you care and that you're personable and that you're approachable, you can get anybody in the workplace to perform and to be productive. And I think that's what it's all about. That's what we need to do, because we spend so much time at work. Leaders have an added responsibility to make the environment and the atmosphere conducive for everybody, because when it's all said and done, I think people want to come to work to be productive and to be good performers. But what happens is people get off track when they don't get the sense from their leader that their leader actually cares or values them as a person, number one, and number two, the product or the product that they deliver or the service that they render. Because I've been there, and I remember how it made me feel. And so when I moved into leadership, I kind of made a commitment that I would not be that type of leader to make people feel like they don't belong or like they don't have anything to contribute. So that's the big difference, and that's what we all need to think about as leaders in order to be the best leader that we can be. Is just to be approachable, have integrity and character, be a good communicator. That means just being able to connect with people, and letting everybody on your team know that you actually value them for being there. And that you care. You care about what it is that they have to add to the team. And I think that's all that people really want, and that's what they expect from their leader. And when you give that to them, in return, they will also be a very, very valuable member of your team. It's that simple, but, we are complicated beings. So oftentimes we get in our own way, but it's really not as difficult and as challenging as we think it is. And the other thing that I didn't mention a little bit earlier, but the other thing that I think that makes a really good leader is our level of comfort in delegating, because that's where a lot of the trust and respect comes as well. When we get to the point where we're comfortable and we actually delegate some of what we can do to others on our team, what we're doing is that we're showing them that we trust them and respect them, and that we're not going to lean over their shoulder and micromanage them. So I didn't mention that a little bit earlier, but I wanted to get that in as well.
Amen to that, because that's something. Oh my gosh, that is such a time saver when you know how to delegate effectively. So I'm actually very grateful you mentioned that.
Yes, sir.
Oh man. Any quick tips for those who may be used to doing things all on their own and they may need to learn how to delegate?
Yeah, basically it comes down to just trusting your folks, right? You may not necessarily believe that everybody on your team would have the acumen or the intelligence or the administrative skills to be able to get it done. But I think over time as a leader, you can mentor and coach those that might not have that skill quite yet. And then through your coaching and mentoring as a leader, you can bring them up to the level where you would like for them to be, and then start to delegate some of those responsibilities to them, and give them the encouragement and motivation to believe that they can get it done. And after you work with them for a little while, you'd be surprised. You can then let them go, and now you have another good person on your team that you can delegate. Because ideally, as the leader, we're not the ones that should actually be doing the work, although we can. We're taking care of the people who will do the work. And that's the sign of a good leader. You and I are leaders because we have demonstrated that we can do the work. We have the tactical skills to get it done, but we're more effective by being strategic and being visionary. So a good leader would help to build up those individuals on our team and take care of them and get them everything they need, including the automation and the training and the facilities, so that ultimately we can delegate the work to them. We're taking care of them so that they can get the work done. without us actually having to do the work. Although we have the ability and the proficiency to do it, but that's not our role anymore. Our role is to take care of the people who will ultimately do the work.
Amen to that. Take care of the people who are going to do the work. That is so true. That's right. Don't send them into battle with a spoon, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. If you get in trouble, throw a spoon at them. And you only get one spoon, so use it wisely. Oh, man, oh, man. Well, all righty. Of course, you mentioned doing some workshops last week for some wonderful folks in the area, and I'm pretty sure there's tons of leadership books. Are there any other things you recommend other folks to add to the repertoire in trying to better themselves in terms of leadership ability?
Well, I would say in closing, Dom, here's the challenge that I always give to folks in my classes and the different courses that I facilitate around the country. I always challenge people to read one book a month. Now, the challenge is not limiting you to just one. If you have a desire and you can read more than one a month, then please do so. But the reason I would encourage everyone to read at least one book a month, because at the end of the year, you would have read 12 books. Those 12 books minimum would give you more ideas and more thoughts around leadership, also improving your life as a person, being more effective in what you do, becoming more strategic, understanding how to connect with people. And, I recommend different authors specifically on the leadership topic and on just becoming a better person, becoming a better you. I read books on the airplane. So, when I'm traveling here or there, depending on how long I'm traveling, if the flight is 2 hours or more, I can typically get through a typical 150-page book, maybe 200 pages. I can typically get through that on an airplane ride, going to, say, from Baltimore, which is my home airport, BWI. Say if I'm traveling down to Dallas, that's about a 2.5-hour ride. I can knock out a book just going from Baltimore to Dallas. So if I can read a book on an airplane, just going from the East Coast to the Midwest, then everybody out there listening can definitely read a book a month. And if you can read more, that'll be even better. But that's a way to develop your leadership abilities, in addition to the workshops and the seminars that we go to on a regular basis. You can go to your favorite search engine and just type in leadership books. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go out to your local bookstore and take a look in the business section and just pick out some really, really good books. These books can range from anywhere from, as little as 50 pages, and they can go all the way up to 200-plus pages and everything in between. So I would encourage people to do that. That's always been an eye-opener. And in every suitcase I pack, I always carry at least 2 books with me, because I know I'm going to get a chance to go through those and read them, go through the executive summary and start reading chapter by chapter. And you'll be surprised at how quickly, once you're really focused on it, you'll be surprised how quickly you can read through those books. So give it a try. That's something that I recommend, and that's a challenge that I always throw out whenever I'm teaching my classes.
Amen to that, and that's a doable one indeed. A book about that's doable.
Yep.
And that's not even the limit either. Beautiful indeed. Or for those who want to keep in touch with you and all that you're doing, what's the best way to reach out to you?
All right, Dom. Well, the best way is through the Johnson Leadership Group. So I'm the founder and CEO of the Johnson Leadership Group. And again, we do leadership development training and professional coaching and other things as well with churches and corporations, nonprofit organizations, and the federal government as well. And the JohnsonLeadershipGroup.com, www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com. The email address is thejohnsonleadershipgroup@gmail.com, and everything will come directly to me. And I make it a practice with getting back to everybody that reaches out by email or through the website. We make it a practice of doing that. And I've been doing this for a good number of years. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a sweet spot of mine, and I'll be doing it for many, many years to come.
Nice. Well, there you have it, folks. Going out there, shoot the good Kevin Wayne Johnson an email. Heck, head over to Amazon, check out some of his books, and they are great indeed, especially for Christians and non-Christians alike, because it's great material that anyone can learn from indeed.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, all righty. Thanks a bunch for your time, and before you go, a question I'd like to ask every guest is that if you were 25 in the current year of 2019, with all of your mass knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, man, what advice would I give to myself? I would have bought some stock in Apple like 20 years ago. Oh, my goodness. Or better yet, back in 1985, I would have purchased some stock in Microsoft if I had only known. The best advice that I would give if I were 25 in 2019 is I would pay close attention to the trends, the current trends that are going on in our country, in our nation, in our society, and position myself to try to make this country better. So, take a listen to the rhetoric that's going on, some of the areas that need attention to detail. Follow your heart and put yourself in a position to make this country a much better place. And that means different things to different people. Some of us have an affinity to want to eradicate homelessness. Some of us have a burden in our heart because we want to put a stop to suicide. Some of us want to get involved with politics because some attention to detail needs to take place on Capitol Hill. Whatever it might be, some of us are going on from undergraduate to graduate school so we can get our master and perhaps even our PhD, because we know we want to become a teacher at some of our founder universities so that we can make a difference in the classroom. So, but whatever it might be, follow your heart, pay close attention to the current trends that are going on in our country, and put yourself in a position to make this country a much better place. That's the advice that I would give and that I would follow at the age of 25.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks a bunch for your listening ears, and it's time now because it's here. Book number 2 is finally here. Stay the Course. The Elite Performers, 7 Keys to Sustainable Success. And you can pre-order your ebook copy today by heading over to Amazon.com and pressing that Buy Now button for only 99 cents. It is a low-cost investment in advancing yourself into your greatness. So let's go ahead to Amazon.com, type in Stay the Course. Look for the book with the big fat red letters, Stay the Course, and the compass pointing north. And yours truly, Dominic Brightman, is the author. And I thank you in advance for all that you do. Go out there and dominate.